All right, we are live with Alexa Bumazovic.
How do you do, Leon?
Very good, very great. Let's talk about entrepreneurship, freedom, and knowledge.
I'd absolutely love to. So pose me a question, please.
Yeah, I recently follow a bit the founder of Shopify, Toby Lütke. A great success story. He started a snowboard shop because he was in Canada snowboarding and he didn't have a work permit there. And then he said, okay, let's do something where I don't need a work permit, which is, I don't need a license to start programming something. He was a programmer developing the shop. Then he sold a couple of snowboards over winter. But then in summer there was no business anymore. And then many people asked him to license the software, and there he went and built like one of the biggest online shop software systems ever, enabling a young or any entrepreneur with no hassle, $30 per month on the lowest plan to start an online shop and join e-commerce and global commerce. And he advocates for a lot for entrepreneurship, and he always says that in the past years, entrepreneurship has declined a lot. So never before has been the number of companies started so low all over the world actually. Why would you think is this going on maybe?
Well, there can be various reasons for declining entrepreneurship in the world, and one of the primary ones that I'm thinking of is the end of the bull market that's been going on pretty much non-stop since what was it, 2011, 2013? Ever since we recovered from the international financial crisis.
Not only the stock market is going up crazy, but it's all just printing money that goes in the stock market.
That's exactly right, and it's the people in the very highest echelons of power and influence that actually gained from this bull market, because us little people didn't actually gain anything in the previous years. And now that another recession is coming up because the elite has filled their pockets, and now they can take another bear market, so to speak. Us small entrepreneurs.
You're speaking about investing when there's an economic recession because prices are then collapsing.
That's right. That's right.
So I heard actually that investors, if you see not what they speak, what they actually do is that cash holdings are increased in the portfolios of the big investors, Warren Buffett and stuff. So they just waiting to buy.
That's quite right. So liquidity is at an all-time high among institutional investors, especially. And you can notice that with the crypto winter and the reduction in the amount of startups being created right now, the capital is drying up because everybody is getting ready for a bear market during which they can buy everything cheap and ride it out till the next big growth period. So fundamentally, it's the macroeconomic effects of central banking and cyclical market forces that are reducing entrepreneurship currently. It's not that people aren't entrepreneurial; they're more ready to create businesses more than ever. But it's just the economic effects of policy.
Yeah, it's a hostile world, and I like the Schiff show because he's always pointing it out over and over again, like since years basically. Like the situation in the whole economy is just distorting the market entirely, misinvestments. Purchasing power is lost for the consumers. It can't be fixed or printing more. And of course, yeah, as you mentioned, the winners, the only one that make money right now are the investment bankers, all the young people that go into the financial world to go as close as possible to the source of money. But this doesn't create value to have the tens whatever payment app that is just rent-seeking bullshit app in the end. And else, everything's hostile. You have more licenses than ever. You just penetrated all the time from all sides. You are always with one leg in the jail if you don't comply with any single GDPR regulation. And every entrepreneur is just if you don't have the money to hire compliance stuff, you can't go in business. And for example, YouTube, right? Recently, there's this new regulation now that they have an upload filter. So this will just make it impossible basically to start an alternative platform because you can't handle this technology that YouTube has no problem just stifling new entrepreneurs to join. But now you said still people are more ready than ever. What is the right reaction to this if you live in this like semi-free market, semi-communist, like just pre-crisis a world where it's like super hard to find business models that thrive. It's super hard to go to market because of this regulation. Which areas are still profitable? Which approach is a solid one? Should you still like just leave the world as it is, and just go write a book for your own and wait a little bit until it's better, or are there still good things to do?
At any moment, there's always good things to do. So the expression "let no crisis go to waste" exists because most money is made in crises, right? So I think that the future of business in general is going to be in communities, because when there's a crisis, communities huddle together and pool resources and create jobs, create production of various kinds. So the way I think that the next economic recession is going to happen, it's probably going to be started by China, and fundamentally the Communist Party is going to dump a bunch of dollars onto the market, and that's going to reduce the purchasing power of pretty much anything backed by the dollar, which is essentially everything in the world right now. And the way you want to handle that is through very tangible things. So stay away from any derivatives trading, binary options, even cryptocurrencies to an extent, because the amount of value that's going to get lost in the capital markets might even reduce the institutional investors' entry into the cryptocurrency market, which may end up being bad news for the value of various cryptocurrencies. I think that only practical skills, infrastructure, and physical stuff is what we can start providing in the next 5 years. Because the strange thing about bull periods and bear periods is during bull periods the nature of economic activity usually goes into more ephemeral, more service-based things, whereas during bear markets, the physical stuff prospers more or less. So I think that if you're an entrepreneur in the coming 5 years, you need to invest in practical skills of various kinds.
I guess that's also in general for your life is always a good advice, right? Like learn a hard skill long term and master it, and then something that you will always be able to to provide value to others. What kind of skills would you think are good ones? I mean, there's always the thing, coding development, but that's an online skill. So what is maybe cooking, or what are maybe your personal preference? What do you learn at the moment?
Coding, agriculture, and engineering are three things that every person I think should know in the 21st century. But given that I know neither of the three, it's a bit hypocritical coming from my mouth.
There was this big shitstorm. Did you see it? Did you notice I think some journalist or some politician said something, and then somebody responded, "Learn to code," and then it went viral all over, right? So it's like
So I think it was a 37-year-old journo from BuzzFeed or something that got laid off due to the funnily enough the restriction of government funds to certain news outlets, and the journalist was laid off and is like, 37-year-old journalists experienced in writing about gender politics or something, and it's like, we're looking for work, and then just thousands and thousands of people responded to her on Twitter saying, "Learn to code," and that's a funny response to it, because there is always work out there in the world, and as I spoke here at Nakamoto's Den, there's people who need to get skills, because there's always a need to be filled, and there's very rarely people with the appropriate skills.
Toby Lütke from Shopify also mentioned that actually the failure rate of startups is quite high, not more than before. Where do you see the problem here? Maybe is it because we're just not as diligent anymore than, let's say, 50 years before? We build startups based on debt, hence are maybe more careless with the money and the strategy, or we scaling too much. Usually if you founded a company a couple of years ago, people are just working super crazy hard with a cash flow point. I mean, they built up the biggest corporations from scratch. If you look at, I don't know, German huge Bird or something, all these big companies now, they built it from scratch. They were just traders starting with whatever resource traded. But it was really, it was not a super hyper scalable thing. It was just, bare business from the start. So do you think there's maybe like people are missing these really traditional entrepreneurial, the patience that you need, and just really focus on providing value. Whereas what you see right now is that everybody's kind of distracted with, I don't know, futuristic blockchain applications where nobody has ever proven that anything works, and it's very idea focused rather than cash flow and actually providing a product focused. So do you think people maybe need to get back a little bit to figure out what actually works compared to what's that right now everybody's is in this maybe illusion almost or really perverse economy that is telling everybody to go into investment banking and just setting the wrong incentives and signals.
So I think that depending on the statistics that you source, I think that the reason more and more startups are failing is, and I might be completely wrong about this, but Generation Z is starting to go into startups of various kinds. And the thing about Generation Z is
The Generation Z gets the call. Connecting. All right, yeah. Generation Z.
Right. So Generation Z is actually the most conservative generation in a very, very long time, right? Because the baby boomers grew up during one of the most prosperous ages in history. Millennials as well during the 90s. Generation X before the millennials had a pretty good run of things. But Generation Z, people born between 1995 and say 2002, are only now going into business, and we grew up during some of the worst economic times in the past 20 to 30 years. So I think that the reason why so many startups are failing there's two reasons for them. Number one is that Generation Z, by their environment, have been shaped to be more risk averse. So what they're trying to do is
helicopter parenting, all societies, political enhanced uncertainty in the life and society. Basically.
Very true, all of that. And I think that Generation Z has opted to, if they do go into startups, they found one or two or three different startups, and they try to see what works. They hedge their bets, so to speak. And of the three, maybe one succeeds. And I think that primarily accounts for the higher level of failure in startups, right? And then there's the other one, which is why are people so apathetic in the current system? Because as you can see, there's still opportunity everywhere, and the question is, why is everybody so lazy and apathetic as opposed to 10 or 20 years ago when startups were all the...
It's too much fluoride in the water.
it might be the calcified pineal glands, that's for damn sure. But I think that the reason why, they took a rat and put it in a cage, and at random intervals they would just electrocute it, and 9-volt electrocution for a rat is extremely painful. It's like getting tased by you or I, right? And they would just do it in completely random intervals with nothing to predict what's going to happen, right? And they feed it completely normally, and etc. And after a while, the rat just starts sitting there and not doing anything, right? Because if you're in a completely random environment that punishes you for not doing anything and for doing something where there's no predictive value to anything, the only sensible thing for your body to do as a biological being is just to waste as little energy as possible, perhaps make some offspring, and just sit apathetically until the hurricane passes, and just try to waste as little energy as possible.
Yeah, it cuts off expression, and ultimately it's about self-efficacy, right? That mechanism, self-efficacy, that mechanism that rewards you with dopamine for you trying something and possibly succeeding after a time.
Right, absolutely. I think that this generation, if you paid attention to the Twitters, social media, in general, the memes of the generation post 1995, you can see a massive spike in people talking about depression, about feeling completely unfulfilled. And I think that the reason why is because the economic system that we live under, and it's not that we live in, we live under it, right? We're an underclass in this economic system. The reason why people are so apathetic and depressed is because they cannot express their full potential in the system that's currently existing. So,
especially schooling, you're not, that's not the model of a school. The model of a school is to sit and listen. Completely opposite to your natural drive to try and error and fail and express and go beyond your limits and understand your limits and try risky things even. And that's what entrepreneurship is ultimately about.
Quite right. So for anybody who's into entrepreneurship, you know that the factory model of the 19th century is absolutely unsustainable. If you try to start up a company like that, it won't work. And the school system is fundamentally in the factory model. So you put in children in series, much like you would some sort of inputs like materials, wood, etc. And you put them out in batches, so like the class of 92, class of 93, etc. So I think that the entire school system as it exists currently is still stuck in the 19th century, and the governments of the world are stuck in maybe the 16th century. We're evolving way past that, and we need to have governance model.
Refer back to that red thing that you know, where they had two boxes of dogs, and also one got electroshocks, and they had no opt out, and the other box could actually take action against it, and hence when they opened the box, the active group was still intact, so they were just jumping out of the box, whereas the ones that were conditioned helplessness, they were learning helplessness, they didn't jump out anymore, right? So
right.
and this is happening, you see, on a social level, on a generational level, and it seems like it's almost irreversible, like really seriously dystopian almost. Would you say maybe that knowledge, it could be a vehicle for somebody in that situation, maybe listening, watching this video now, to say, okay, I can't really change my circumstance, my environment, but I might find a way to hack myself out of this.
So an interesting thing that I heard from Catholics in my life is the expression mea culpa, which is it is my fault, or I am guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're in absolute wretched circumstances, there's I think that the knowledge that we mentioned, various skills that one can apply in the free market, or the remnants of the free market that we have currently, I think all of that can work, but I think the primary knowledge that people will need in the coming years is self-knowledge and the knowledge of parenting, because you can make all the money that you want, but fundamentally improve themselves. I think that in the future the are going to be primary as opposed to the stuff that we talked about previously.
Anything else you want to mention in this interview?
Well,
Time for your own YouTube channel, Alexa.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to be founding my own YouTube channel in the months to come.
About parenting.
Parenting, reading books, self-knowledge, self-improvement, relationships, business, all the stuff that I think myself to be good at, and that I've been told that I'm good at. So thank you very much for the interview, Leon.
Yeah, so to wrap up, it's a hostile world for the freedom of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is going down. However, the world is still providing better opportunity probably than ever before, because we can sit here with no problem in peace and do something for a better future. I think that is enough to give some motivation.
Certainly.
Thank you very much, and have a good day.
You too, man. Cheers.